Morning. I'm Dr. Tom Rivera. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Studies, Emeritus here at Cal State San Bernardino. Today is November the 20th. I take that back, excuse me. No, today is November the 21st, Thursday, and we're in the Fowle Library at Cal State San Bernardino. Today's guest, on the extreme right, we have Mr. Frank Gonzalez. Frank, welcome this morning. Next to Frank, we have Mr. Saul Duran. Saul, welcome.
Good morning.
And then next to Saul, we have Dr. Luis Gomez. Luis, welcome to our discussion this morning.
Good morning.
And next to Luis, we have Mr. Ernie Colunga. Ernie, welcome to our discussion this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Our discussion this morning will be scouting in South Colton in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Frankie, did I miss your year? Were you in the 60s or the 70s? Being involved as assistant scoutmaster?
This is Scoutmaster, the late 60s into early 70s.
Okay, so we'll cover the late 60s and the early 70s with your discussion. Saul, you were the assistant scoutmaster back in the mid-40s, I think?
In the 50s.
In the mid-50s?
Yes, in the mid-50s. I joined in 1945.
Okay. Tell us about your experience. You said that, tell us about your experience as a scout and then also as a scoutmaster. And you said you joined Troop 45 in 1945.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The way I heard about the Boy Scouts, first of back in 1945, there was a boys club in South Colton at Wilson School, Monday nights, where it was open to all the boys that wanted to participate in boxing, playing basketball, playing steal the bacon, games to keep us occupied for a couple of hours. And it was run by Mr. Ray Abril. And then we participated in that. Then I heard about Mr. Ray Abril also opening up his home for neighborhood kids to go out there in his backyard and play basketball, boxing, and watch television, again, to keep the kids out of trouble. And then again, I heard that Mr. Ray Abril was a scoutmaster in South Colton for a Boy Scout troop, Troop 45. My little gang of friends heard about it, and we were invited. So let's go see what's happening. So we went to Wilson School at the auditorium and sat in the back and listened to what was going on about scouting. Before we went home, we joined the Boy Scouts. We joined Troop 45. At the time, no one in Troop 45 had any Boy Scout apparel. You know, the hats, the shirts, the short pants and stockings. Nobody had anything like that. But upon joining, Mr. Abril would give you a Boy Scout neckerchief, paid for out of his own pocket, you know, with a slip knot. And everybody got that upon joining. And that's the only thing we had as far as apparel for Boy Scouts. We went on camp outs. Mr. Abril had a pickup truck. It would load up 12, 15 boys in the back of the truck and drive us anywhere. Our assistant scoutmaster was Ray Gonzalez.
Oh, okay.
Ray Gonzalez.
I remember Ray, yes.
He joined the National Guard, and around 52, the National Guard was activated, and he went to Korea. That's when I took over after Ray Gonzalez as assistant scoutmaster.
So going back to, you mentioned that Ray was kind of a director of recreation for kids in South Colton, where he opened his house, and also he had a
Boys Club.
A room there at the Garfield School that he would provide activities for kids in South Colton.
Around the neighborhood, yes.
Around the neighborhood. Do you remember some of the guys, some of your gang that went with you and joined the Scouts? Do you remember any of those gentlemen?
Yeah, we were all around 12 years old at the time, and it was Daniel Ayala, Albert De La Rosa, uh, Albert Negrete. We were about 2 years older than the Boy Scouts that were there when we joined. We were a little bit older. So our friendship was 2 years older than the other Boy Scouts. Some of those names may not be familiar with.
I know all of them.
Yeah, oh, well, we all knew everybody in South
Yeah.
Fulton.
Ken must besides those three.
Let's see. And we were Felix, the Felix boys, the Soto, Felix Soto. Because we had three sections in Colton. One to the east of Fifth Street, where we lived, there was Las Palomas. To the El Barrios. To the west was La Reserva. I lived in the middle, and we didn't have a nickname for our neighborhood, but those were three separate neighborhoods: La Reserva, Las Palomas, and the Fifth Street guys.
We'll call it La Calle Cinco.
La
We'll
Calle
call it La
Cinco.
La calle Nicle.
Yeah.
But we hung around together. Then I started a softball team in my area. Las Palomas and La Reserva did organize their own softball team, and we used to play each other. Never got into trouble, into fights with each other. We played softball against neighborhoods. It was wonderful. It was a different world.
Was Ernie Garcia still in the Scouts? I know he was a scout there for a while.
Garcia?
Ernie
Sure.
Garcia.
Yes, Ernie Garcia.
How about Gaby Gomez?
Gabe, I think it was after I was, or,
Or was he in there? Was he in the troop?
yeah, sure he was, yeah. I think every young boy in South Colton was,
Yeah. At
at
one time
one
or
time,
another.
because Troop 45 went from the 40s to the 60s, right? That was a long time, so a lot of young boys traveled right through that at one time or another.
Okay. Let's, can you hold, man? Hold.
That's what you were talking about?
All right, gentlemen, we have a new visitor. We have a new visitor that just came in, Mr. Rudy Luna. Rudy,
Thank you.
welcome to our discussion this morning.
Thank you.
And
How you got here?
I'm glad you're here. We're delighted to see you. And Saul is talking about his early experiences when he was in Troop 45. So Saul, we were talking about you taking over the troop. What year did you take over as Assistant Scout Master? And you said that you took over because Ray Gonzalez got drafted to go to Korea, and then you took over his place.
Yeah, Ray went to Korea at around 51, 52, that's when I took over.
Uh-huh.
As I said before, we had three camping areas in Blue Mountain that we rotated. We used to go camping about once a month, and I'd take out the boys. Ray would take us to up in the mountains to Camp Arataba on his truck, and we used to go to Whitewaters. Anytime we had a long distance to travel, Ray Abril would take us in his truck. For Blue Mountain, I would take him for the weekend. We had three camping areas in Blue Mountain. One, and we had a name for each one of them. One was Spring 45. The other was Bamboo Cave and Skunk Hollow. And each campsite had a name and a story behind it that we all fabricated. But those were our three campsites in Blue Mountain. The way
Now, Blue Mountain is not too far from Colton.
No, but if you walk it, it's quite a distance.
And we did.
And that was all.
And we did.
That was all hiking.
Okay.
When we went camping, we were all together at Garfield School, because that was we had a clubhouse there that the Garfield School let us use for our meetings, and that's where we would meet. Then we would inspect all the scouts, make sure they had good clothing and it would be properly outfitted for the weekend. And then we would start across Santa Ana River, then through Cooley Ranch, which there was nothing there. No shopping centers, nothing. And then we would come up to what was called Jeff Hill, the mountain that goes up, straight up. And from right now, nowadays, you see the houses along the ridge in Grand Terrace. Well, that was Jeff Hill. That's what it was called then. We called it Poop-Up Hill because it was hard to go straight up, with your backpack and everything. It was Poop-Up Hill. We went up one at a time until we reached the top. Then that was the base of Blue Mountain. We'd keep hiking up Blue Mountain halfway, just like that mountain out there. And then we would walk along the middle of the mountain, all the way around it. Then we came to Skunk Hollow. And that's where we would pitch our tents in a big circle and build our campfire in the middle. Popcorn, tell jokes, stories, spooky stories, try to scare somebody. And we did our own cooking. Everybody cooked for themselves. Scrambled eggs in the morning with bacon and beans. Open up your little can of Rosarito beans. Everybody fended for themselves. And that was part of the teachings that everybody would get out of it. How to fend for, how to cook for yourself, and in the morning change clothes, how to maintain yourself clean and all that. It was fun. The following month we would come back. The following month we would do it all over again, to another campsite, to Bamboo Cave or Spring 45. In the wintertime, Ray would take us to up in the mountains to Camp Arataba. It was a beautiful campsite with cabins all around. Reminded me of an old cavalry army camp. And with snow about 3 feet. It was an experience. It was an experience. Mr. Ray Abril touched a lot of us, our lives, provided for a lot of the boys. And I've often thought that, thinking back about Mr. Abril, what he did for us, because those were our golden years, our formative years when we were growing up. And I've often thought that, what would have become of us? How would our lives have changed if Mr. Abril had not been there to guide us, to shape our lives, and help us to become good citizens through scouting? And all of us, everyone that, not only scouting, in the neighborhoods that he opened up his home for, all of us whose lives Mr. Abril touched, we all owe him a great debt of gratitude. We'll never be able to repay him. And I've always said, thank you, Mr. Abril, from Troop 45, the Boy Scouts of America.
So he laid a good foundation for all of
He
us
did.
then.
He did. Our lives would have been different,
I think so. I really
very
think so.
different.
I really think.
I don't know where we'd be today if we hadn't associated ourselves with Mr. Abril.
One thing about it, that you would figure that if you're not a superstitious man or not, that actually the man upstairs put him there.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we weren't troublemakers. We were just kids wanting to have a good time, play ball, basketball, hiking, or whatever. But somewhere along the way, I've always thought that somebody put him there.
Yes.
Because wasn't he from Spain?
I have no
Eventually,
idea.
he was from Spain, I think. But
He had to be because Chicanos in South Colton, they weren't over 6 feet tall like he was. He was a big man. He was a big man.
Spanish, I know.
I think it was part Portuguese.
So anyway, so will he really laid a good cornerstone and our foundation for the kids that were growing up during that era in South Colton.
A blessing for everybody.
Yeah.
A blessing.
Yeah, not only did he provide, the scouting principles that we went by, supposedly that were written in the book, so to speak, but he provided guidance through example, and that, I think, had a lot to do with what we became, because we followed his lead.
And you mentioned the books, Lou. You brought the old book there.
Yeah, the Boy Scout Handbook, which I acquired, probably the first year that I joined, which had to be about 1951 or 52. And then the other one is a field book, one that you can refer to when you're out in the campgrounds. The survival skills, cooking, setting up your camp, the campfire, using only 2 matches for lighting the campfire, or using, some of the old, the stick or flint, that kind of thing. Very useful, very useful. The survival skills part is just amazing. And I think even in this urban society now, we still use some of the skills, which is
One
just
thing about
amazing.
it, what I used to like when we used to camp was Ray Brill. He would always have his own little section. And like you just said, when we were having breakfast in the morning, he was the first one actually up. And you can actually smell the bacon and the eggs and everything around it. And you should have seen some of the guys that would, try to sit around him, And he will always say, "Hey, all of you cook your own. I'm not gonna give you any of mine, because I'm cooking my own." But one thing about it, that I think way down deep, he would look at our faces and he would share.
Sure.
You know what I'm trying to say? It's just like you just said a little while ago, we were little kids, and I think he was like saying, when he tell me, I'm not share with you guys, and then all of a sudden, he would share a little piece of bacon or something, but
Oh, yeah.
the other thing bad about it, that he made one mistake, that every time we went camping, the guy knew that he was gonna give him something. Not much, but it was just something about it that he would always be the first.
So he would always be sharing
There you
whatever
go.
he had.
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Not only time, but also his house and
Even his
and
house,
food,
sure.
his food.
That was his life.
Yeah.
Scouting, young kids, teenagers, or all the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
He lived for that.
Yeah, that's what I said to you, that, I don't think, we're in the 2013, but I don't think there'll ever be another one like him. I mean, we have had leaders, and like Gurney here, you were one, you were one, at that time you were leaders, but my point is, from his standpoint, he was just something like, he was there. And like I said, like Tommy said, we used to go to his house, he would never say no,
No.
He was one of those guys that, he just was there all the time, and when we played ball or basketball or any sport with him or something like that, he was always,
He didn't only take care of the younger generation. I remember he had the junior Mercury's team, South Colton had the Mercury's, remember?
Yeah.
The Mercury softball team, they were older guys that had come back from the service. And there was a junior softball league, and he had the junior Mercury's too. He was taking care of almost every age of people in
he
South
had
Colton.
our team called the Colton Colts.
Mhm.
The Colton Colts, the baseball, and he would, I remember, me and Danny Gonzalez, that we went out where we were playing, but there was something missing, and somebody said, "Well, we need a name. Put a name on the shirts." So Danny said, "Buy the shirts, and I'll make you a stencil, and I'll make you the name." And he put Colton Colts, because Colton
Colton
and
Colts,
then
yeah.
Colts. And he made a whole bunch of T-shirts. And then when we went out there and played, we looked good. I'm not saying we won though, but we looked good.
And
But Ray was
Saul,
part of it too, because like you said, he had these different teams, you know.
Saul kind of laying that groundwork and foundation that Ray did. We had a banquet for him. What year was that banquet, Ernie?
Oh, 2000,
2001.
Louis?
It was
2001.
2001.
In 2001, we had a banquet for Ray, and there's a picture of all the guys that showed up at the end there, that showed up for the banquet to honor Ray Abril. And that was, we had over 300 people that showed up for that banquet.
Oh, it's on the
Yeah,
end.
it's a
Yeah.
great, yeah, it was a great banquet in his honor. And then Saul, you passed the baton to whom after you left? As assistant scoutmaster?
I believe the senior scout was Ernie. Ernie was the senior scout. 'Cause, you weren't there when I was there, huh?
No.
No,
Or you?
No.
None of you were there.
no, yeah, I
I
was,
was
think-
there.
You were there?
Yeah, when you joined.
Yeah, because I started going to Valley College, and I had too much of a workload, so I dropped out in 1957.
Mhm.
And I think Savas,
No,
Oh, yeah.
I never met Savas as far as scout. I knew Savas
yeah,
through boxing, but
yeah.
not through scouting. I didn't know he had.
He had
Yeah, he
taken
took
over
it
the
over.
But
troop.
see, after I took over, a couple of years later, I joined the National Guard, because that was the thing to do. You know, I always had to do something else. And when I joined the National Guard, National was more interested in Army, doing Army things. And we went, bivouacs, gave us rifles, and we fired the M1s and all that. So I left the Scouts in '52. And like I said, I remember Ernie was a senior scout at the time, and I don't know if he took over or who did after me, after I left.
Ernie, did you take over?
No, I was senior patrol leader, and like I said, Ray was still there.
Oh, Ray was always there.
Yeah,
Ray was always there.
but I was senior patrol leader. And like I said, I had to drop out because of my heavy load at Valley College. That was in 1957. And I don't know what happened after that, you know.
You mentioned Sabas Roblero.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what I understand, he took it over from Ray, because Ray got out of it after, so, what was it? I forget, 40 years he was in there, from 1942.
Well, he
Yeah.
left it because of health, right?
Health issues.
Yeah, and he started going downhill after that.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't even attend when you guys took that picture.
Right,
of
he
that.
could, he was in the
No, he
hospital.
was in bad
Yeah.
health.
Yeah. So anyway, Ernie, you took over for a little while, and then you got, the work at Valley College got a little too heavy for you. And then the next, Frankie, when did you take over? You know, we're talking about the
It's about
continuation of the legacy of
1960,
245.
1969, when Frankie Arce and myself took over, and we did it for less than 3 years.
Who was in
2.5
charge of the
years.
troop then, when you guys took
Pardon
it
me?
over? Who quit and left the troop when you guys took it over?
It was dormant. There was nobody, the
No
troop
scoutmaster?
wasn't, yeah, there was no
Sabas wasn't
scoutmaster.
there?
No.
So evidently he did quit without getting a predecessor, and, I mean, somebody to follow him up, and
You
you
know, I
guys
don't-
found out about it and took it over then.
I don't really recall Sabas being this Boy Scout master. He's Cub Scouts. But I don't really remember him being a Boy Scout master
So
or
you
leader.
and Frankie D'Arce took over Cold Turkey,
We,
almost?
well, it was, Ray still was involved because he influenced Frank to do it, I think, you know, because there was a lot of kids again, still, without any Boy Scout troop. So we resurrected Troop 45 there at Wilson. We used to meet in the cafeteria, and we basically started from scratch. Fortunately for us, we had the second generation of Brill boys. And because of Ray and Ray Jr., you know, they were kind of guided or schooled in the scouting ways. So they were a tremendous help.
So they came in after.
You're right.
Because it's funny that all the time from when I joined, that his two boys never took part in scouting. They were going to high school, but they did come in towards the last.
Yeah. Well, these were his grandchildren. His grandkids are the ones that
Well,
came
not his
into the
sons,
tree.
it was his
Not his
grandkids.
boys.
His grandkids, no, not
Okay.
his sons, his grandkids.
Okay.
So, yeah, Ray Abreu Jr.'s sons, Nicky and, God, I forget. Anyway, his sons, excuse my memory. So basically, we restarted the troop and a very good response to it. There was a need for it. There was hunger from the kids in the neighborhood to have an organized, activity. So we had about 20 kids and we did quite well. Took them to a summer camp, went to a lot of hikings. But you know what I was thinking about it, when I was in the troop, we went to Blue Mountain. But when Frank and I had the troop, we never did take them to Blue Mountain. We went a lot to Lytle Creek area,
Apple White,
yeah.
Apple White was up there.
But we never did go to Blue Mountain and show them Skunk Hollow, which has got a lot of good memories. Oh, it's still there, yeah.
And Bamboo Cave, remember that little cave that all that cold water would come out
All
of?
the bamboo was that?
Yeah,
Solid
bamboo
bamboo.
right up to it.
The first time I went to Bamboo Cave, the guy, new groups, the new guys that were coming in, the older guys like you, and Bamboo Cave, the guys were so excited. Oh yeah, it's a big place and all that. They got us all riled up, like saying, we're going someplace big and all that. Well, it wasn't that big to some of us, but it was just the idea that the older guys will a lot of times tell us a little fibs, that, oh, we're going here, Bamboo Cave, Skunk Hollow, and we knew about Jap Hill, and all that, and the guys would, the tradition was always, where did the Japs go, because they were supposed to be there,
Yeah.
So, and then there was a canal there, remember they had the canal and it was full of snakes and all that. And so the older guys, a lot of time would, pass a word, and a lot of time when we got there, well, but it was just the idea.
Well, see, the way
And it's still there, I think.
the way the names came about, the Skunk Hollow was the first campsite as you rounded Blue Mountain. It was like a crater, about 50 yards around. Nothing in, it was just a hollow. And we put our tents around the campfire in the middle. And there was a skunk. The skunks would come in at night. And that's where you learn. You learn your lesson. You leave food out there, your bread and all. Hey, the skunks are gonna come in and eat everything. And in the morning, there was a stink. And what happened? And Ray said, those are skunk, guys. Oh, and we looked at each other. I thought it was you. No, it was skunk. And that's how the name came about, Skunk Hollow. Bamboo Cave was the second campsite, a little further in. I had the boys, I took them over, and we were supposed to stay at Skunk Hollow, but it was a day like today, raining, cold. And he said, well, we can't stay in here on the hollow because it will drown. So I said, let's go look for someplace where there's trees or something. So we kept hiking up against the mountain. There was a whole bunch of bamboos, not tall bamboos, big area. And he said, well, hey, that looks like a good place to spend the night. So we went inside the bamboo area, and seemed like there was a little stream running right through the middle. There was water coming down from the mountain. And funny, we didn't think about, is there snakes or is there spiders? Nothing. We just went in there and I said, well, this is good enough. Say, let's spend the night here. Everybody opened up their packs and put out the blanket, and that's where we slept. And up toward the mountain, there was like a cave. It was like a cave. And nobody wanted to go into that cave. It was too dark. So we slept inside the bamboos in there. So that's how we called that Bamboo Cave.
Bamboo Cave.
Spring 45 was further in. It was a beautiful campsite, and there was like a waterfall coming down, and it came into a puddle of water, and it like a spring. So we named it Spring 45.
Yeah,
There was
halfway up
clear.
the mountain, I
yeah,
remember.
It was clear
Yeah.
drinking water.
Oh, yeah.
There was running water coming from the side, and it just collected itself in a little puddle. It was clear water. I guess that's where they got the bottled water now. It was Spring 45.
Yeah, I think that was on the east side of Blue Mountain, wasn't it? It was on that side of Blue Mountain,
Yeah,
on the east side, yeah.
yeah.
And Frankie, you said that you took over the troop, and you and Frank D'Arcy.
Yes.
And continue the scouting tradition that was started by these folks back in the 40s. What kind of activities were you in? Well, how many kids did you have?
We had roughly 20 active kids in the troop. Yeah.
Were they all
And it-
from all over South Colton, or just parts of South Colton?
No, as far as I understood, they were all spread out through all of South Colton,
Uh-huh.
you know, yeah.
And
So-
Frankie, let me ask you a personal question.
Sure.
What motivated you to be a assistant scoutmaster?
Well, you know, when I joined the Scouts, I was 11 years old and had never, well, that's not true. I was a Cub Scout. When I became 11 years old, you can't be a Cub Scout anymore. You gotta move up to Boy Scouts. Cub Scouts was a very good experience, but it was just games all the time. What impressed me when I went to the Boy Scouts that first of all, I had never been around Ernie or any of these bigger guys, because there was guys that were 4 years older than I was in the troop. But the thing that impressed me was how important the goal setting was, to work yourself up through the ranks and achieve merit badges. They were all goal orientated. I mean, that was a big thing.
Before
You
you
know.
continue, hold that thought a moment. Ernie, would you hold your little banner up? Frankie mentioned the
It's a-
merit badges.
It's a sash.
I don't know,
Sash,
it's
yeah.
a sash, I'm sorry. And would you hold it up and?
Yeah, this goes over your shoulder, and goes across like this. And these are the badges that were earned, and in order to get Star Scout and Life Scout, you had to earn merit badges. And these are the merit badges that I had earned. There's 13 here. I only needed 13, I needed 20 altogether to become a Eagle Scout. But like I said earlier, the workload at Valley College was too heavy and I just dropped out. I should have stayed in there till I made those merit badges. It was,
And behind the sash, Ernie, what are those badges?
oh, back here, we were given patches to different camporees that we attended, jamborees, and all kinds of campouts that we had as a district. Our troop would participate with several other troops, maybe 6, 7, 8 other troops from the area. And these were the different campground areas: Barton Flats, Santa Ana River, the Fillmore area, and Lake Arrowhead. So at any rate, that's what these are. Ordinarily, on this you would have your same patches that you would have on your shoulder, which would say Boy Scouts of America, Colton, Troop 45, and then your rank would be under that. As a matter of fact, I think I have a shirt with that on there. This is an old shirt. You can imagine.
Been around.
Yeah. So, I don't
It's
know
over
if you-
60 years old, Salvador.
Yeah, this is my Explorer shirt, and of course, this used to be my Troop 45 patch here, you can't see it. But it's Colton, California, Troop 45, and this was my rank, this was Senior Patrol Leader. In other words, I was the leader of all 4 patrols, and this was my rank, I was up to Life Scout at the time. And as a green shirt states, I was an explorer. You had to be 14 years of age or older to join the Explorers Club.
So Frankie, these were the things that motivated you, that the goal setting and
Yes.
working towards something and accomplishing something?
Right, and then, like they were saying, the survival skills, the camping, the first aid, I mean, these were all things that were really, to me, at the time, were really
It doesn't fit anymore.
exciting, they were, motivating, it was good information, and it led to, I was amazed when I was in the Army. Some of the people when we were out in the bush, they were really offended or scared on, some of the items that you would run into out there. But because of Boy Scouts, it was kind of natural for me, I didn't get too excited, Canteen was out of water, I knew what to look for drinkable water, versus non-drinkable water. And a lot of different things. North, the moss on trees always grows in the north. I mean, many little survival skills that I learned from Ernie, and Ray Abril teaching.
And your compadre-
Don't forget first aid, man.
Well, yeah, well, first aid, when I became a firefighter, I mean, first aid, came quite easy to me, and knot tying. It's a big thing in firefighting. We use knots a lot, and like these, for hours. When Louis, you talked about, the knot tying contest.
Yeah.
I'm still to this day, I'm pretty proficient with a rope.
Oh, yeah, you never forget that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and then at nighttime, during the daytime, you knew which, what to look for on the trees, like the moss that you mentioned, growing on the north. At night, if the stars were out, how to find north, by looking for the Big Dipper and then pointing at, and then finding where north was.
Northwest.
So you always knew which way you were heading, or,
Back in
It's
those,
amazing.
back in those days when we used to go camping, the nights were so clear, you could see all the stars.
Before
Ray would always sit there with us and tell us about the stars. Okay, see that big star, the brightest? That's the North Star. Okay, it would teach us about the Big Dipper, how to identify the Big Dipper, and how the Big Dipper pointed towards the Little Dipper. He taught us all that is astronomy. He knew about that, and he would share it with us. Now, try to do that now, with a smog and all the, but the skies were blue and the stars were so bright, you could do that. And we all know about the Big Dipper, North Star, because of Ray Abril.
So this was one of the things that we picked up because we would not get this at home.
That's right,
Yeah.
that's right. No one would. Ray would.
Frankie,
Beautiful.
back to you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were a scoutmaster for a couple of years, and your compadre Frank D'Arcy was also helping you. Tell us a little bit about Frankie. How did he get involved?
Frank was always very, very grateful to Troop 45 because of the father image that Ray provided for him. Unfortunately, Frank's father, the way I understand it, was not always there for him. So he had a yearning for male leadership and examples, and Ray, fulfilled that, and he was always very, very grateful. And the companionship, he was a very good team player, and he loved all the activities in the Boy Scouts. So, and that's, as a matter of fact, that's where I met him. I didn't, even though I lived in Navarra, the Paloma, I didn't live close to the park. And they had their own little thing all the time, all the people that lived around the park, which was beautiful, but I wasn't really involved in that.
So you lived in Las Palomas.
I lived
on
in-
what street?
I lived on N Street,
On N
200
Street.
block of N Street.
And Frankie lived in the projects
project.
in South Colton, which were on Pine Street?
Yeah, Pine.
Pine Street,
Mhm.
yeah. So anyway, you met him and the chemistry,
Chemistry, right. We became very good friends and remained friends all those years, And it was him, like I said, that when he realized the troop wasn't in existence anymore, he had talked to Ray, that he decided to take it over, and he approached me to assist him. So I said, sure, I'd be glad to help you, and we did it for a few years, and it worked out great. The boys were a little different. They were more modernized, they had more parent participation. And unfortunately, or fortunately, for our outings, we didn't have the luxury of throwing them in the back of a pickup anymore because we were, rule restrained. So we had to find volunteers, parent volunteers, to help us transport them to different areas. So, but we still did it. We still would, hiking, camping, and
so you did for 2 years then?
right.
And what happened that you couldn't do it anymore?
Well, Frank was in sales, so sometimes he couldn't even make the meetings or outings. I'd have to take it over. And then I transferred from Colton, the fire department, to Orange County. So it was a different situation over there, and I was away from home, quite often. So I had to drop out, and then I really don't know why he stopped.
So after both of you stopped being the scoutmasters, then there was the end to scouting for that time?
To my understanding, Troop 45 never came back from that day forward until this group started their little activities. I forget what we met for the very first time. Over in Lukey Center. Had to do with a troop, but I don't really recall what it was for.
Right, after the banquet, we decided to resurrect the troop again.
245, yeah.
And Gil, what's his last name?
Sanchez.
Sanchez decided to spearhead the movement to resurrect the Troop 45 again, but I don't think it was successful. It just didn't work out. Right, Ernie?
Yeah.
Right, the leaders that we had were pretty wishy-washy. They did it for as long as they felt like it, then they just drop out. And we raised a lot of funds and gave it to them for equipment, uniforms, and awards for award ceremonies, courts of honor. And we deposited the money with the Boy Scout headquarters there in Redlands.
Yeah, Arrowhead District.
Arrowhead District. And they could go in there and just tell them they were from Troop 45, show them their membership card, and they would get what they needed, But that didn't work. They just didn't have the leadership. Like Frank said, there was nobody like Ray who would dedicate his whole life to youth activities, and Boy Scouts being one of them. And he was a surrogate father for a lot of guys I know. I know he was for me. And to this day, I still live by what he taught me. Still.
And Ernie, we did make an effort to resurrect the scouting
Oh, yeah.
program again. But could it be that times are different now?
I think so. Kids have so many more activities that learning the principles that the Boy Scouts teach weren't as vital now as they were back then. Because they have a lot more electronic activities, very few organizations. I don't know if the YMCA is still in existence.
Well,
Yeah. And,
Scouting is still strong,
yeah.
just not in South Colton.
Not in South Colton.
Matter of fact, my grandson's 14. When he was 11, I pushed him towards the scouting in Grand Terrace, Troop 40.
Mhm.
And he did join, but he didn't last 6 months. It
Yes.
just wasn't for him, I guess. I was
No.
disappointed he never even made tenderfoot.
That's a shame.
But Frankie, from your experience, in our days, we didn't have any parent participation. Everybody was busy making a living.
Right.
And when you were the leader of the scout troop, did you have any parent participation?
Yes. Like I said, whenever we were going to have an activity, we needed help with transportation. And I don't know how important the dues were in your days, but when we had the troops, we assessed them like $3 a month in order to raise the funds to buy the supplies that we needed, and the Kiwanis Club at the time was very generous with us. That's another thing.
Which
talking about
Kiwanis Club, was that the Colt Kiwanis?
Kiwanis
Okay.
Club. As a matter of fact, I don't know if in your time, when I was in the Boy Scouts, Ray would get a contract, I don't know what he'd do, and we'd sell first aid kits. And also we would deliver flyers for companies. Like I remember Ray threw us all in the back of the truck, and we used to go throughout Colton handing out flyers for Rexall's drugstore at the time. And Rexall's would probably pay us $20, $40, to do it.
I know also we did service for the Goodwill Industries, remember?
Yeah.
We used to take bags and take them to the different houses and tell them we'd be back the following week to pick it up to give us any donated things that they couldn't use anymore. And we got clothing, shoes, sometimes appliances, whatever. And we turned them over to the Goodwill Industries, and they in turn would refurbish these items and sell them. They still do it today.
Yeah.
I've seen scouts out in the streets with the Goodwill bags distributing them. They
I
still
remember
do.
those bags, they were quite big for the time.
Oh,
Big old
yeah.
brown bag.
Yeah.
You know, Ernie,
Yeah.
you showed your Explorer's shirt.
Yeah.
When I was in, you know, that's when the Explorers came out. And like I said before, when I first joined, none of the Boy Scouts had any uniforms, nothing. We'd go to jamborees and where all the district Boy Scouts would get together. All of the other scouts would have full uniforms. And here comes Troop 45 in Levi's and white t-shirts. That's all we had. But we had our neckerchief.
And neckerchief.
Then the Explorers came about, and well, it wasn't a hard requirement that you had to have because they went from Boy Scout uniforms to the green shirt like you have,
Yeah.
and it was the green, and none of us could afford to go buy a shirt. Back in those days, it was hard times. So Ray got the idea to go to Rios Rancho and ask them if they could help us out with apples, so we could sell apples. And say, well, you know, after the season, after November, he said, you can come in and take all the apples you want, no charge. So Ray went to the troop and said, hey, how many of you guys can go this Saturday and pick up apples? Hey, everybody volunteered. So we came over to Rios Rancho and back up his truck, loaded up the truck with apples. Took them over to South Colton, everybody brought a bunch of bags, and we sold bags and bags of apples, enough to buy shirts for all the scouts. We went to Hellman's department store,
yeah.
got them in there. And that's how we bought our but we were knocking on doors. All this was in South Colton, just in South Colton. Knocking on doors, would tell them what we were doing. Everybody, $1 a bag like that. And nobody would say no. Sure, yeah, give me the bag. That's how, but that was Ray, you know. But
So-
nowadays, you know, to run a troop is expensive. You have to have sponsors. And the liability are so great. You take your kids camping, so once some of the kids get hurt, you're gonna get sued. So it's a different world. That's why it's disappearing. You have to have good sponsors, and then sponsors don't want to sponsor Little Leagues hardly anymore, let alone Boy Scouts, you know, a troop.
So Sal, you not only learned survival skills and practical skills at being in a Boy Scout, but you also learned entrepreneur skills, where you would go out and pick apples and sell the apples and use whatever you got, those profits, and use them to buy shirts or other things that you needed for the troop.
And those required a white belt, brother Ernie?
Yeah.
The green shirt, oh, we were sharp. Green shirt with a white belt,
And
we thought we were
Oh,
something.
and white leggings, remember? You
Yeah,
used to
white
wear those
leggings.
White leggings.
I
Yeah.
remember those two.
Uh-huh.
You know, the thing that comes to mind as we're talking about all these days is the time that we went to Joshua Tree for the camporee. And that was the first time that I really noticed that there was a difference. You know, like you said, you know, we were lucky to have a shirt and a neckerchief, and that was about it. And we were camping out there kind of in a little isolated area. And they were gonna have activities for all the scouts, all the troops that were there. So we went over the rocks and all that in Joshua Tree and got to where all the other troops were. You know, those troops were all, man, dressed to the nines. They had,
Big
man,
sash.
full uniforms,
All sash.
sashes, and, you know, the cap, the whole thing, hijo. And I thought, gee, Merry Christmas, you know, are we supposed to be here? I think some of us just kind of ducked out and said, hey, I think I'm not gonna participate in this.
Well,
You know?
Lou, you mentioned that they were all nicely equipped.
Oh, very well.
Remember our backpacks? Where do we buy our backpacks?
That was
What about our mess kits?
Army
and our
surplus.
canteens?
Army surplus.
The Army surplus?
Highway 99, the little ones that had is still there.
Yeah.
I think it's a lawnmower shop now or something. I forget. But it's still there, man. We used to buy all our equipment there.
So it was a ragtag kind of
Oh, yeah.
description of our Troop 245.
But I'll tell you one thing, on the upside, we always, almost got first place in every activities that we participated in. Like first aid, making fires without matches, cooking, not tying, we were good, we were fast. Like, who was saying that we used to try not to throw them on the ground when they were done, remember?
That was, yeah.
Ule.
Ule was really good at it.
Yeah.
Man, he, you know.
But we
man,
came out ahead that way.
Yeah,
We
fast,
went,
yeah, fast.
we didn't have full uniforms, but we had very full and very good skills as Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
So we were taught well by you guys that were scout leaders.
I was only an assistant patrol leader,
Uh-huh.
but I did attain the rank of first-class scout. And I remember all the things that you learned, or that you had to learn to become, you know, from tenderfoot to second class to first class.
Exactly.
But
I
I-
remember when some of the time, right there at the Wilson, we would be broken into different groups.
Groups, yeah.
And you tied knots, and you tied this, and you would do this.
Yeah,
and
we're
you would
learning
break them up,
skills.
everybody. But every month, everything was different. Now you go from here, you go here. In other words, you would train you in
Yeah.
all the, like Randy said, and all the skills that we had to learn, you know?
That's right.
For that
And,
particular rank,
yeah.
yeah.
And then after that, you know, we'd go out there and try it. And a lot of times, like the scoutmasters, they would check us, you know. Give me the chip check or whatever. And a lot of time, you know, like I said, we were kids that a lot of time we just couldn't do it, you know. Some are more active than others. But, you know, they would always say, I'm gonna show you how you do it, and I'm gonna show you, and you stay there till you do it right. And then he said, okay,
That's
you
right,
got it.
yeah.
So, you know, I remember those little groups that used to have there at Wilson, you know. And I remember Babula, like I said, Ernie and Ray, that would always be there, you know, training us in different things, you know. And every month it'd be something different.
So hands-on experience. isn't
There
it?
you go.
Hands-on experience.
But it helped us, not only then, later on in life. Like you said, in the military life, you were a little more advanced because of your Boy Scout training. How to fend for yourself, how to tell which water was bad, which water was good to drink, you know. It was good for the rest of your life, all the training.
Yeah, I heard it from a lot of guys. But they zipped through boot camp just like that when they went into the service. And, cause they were teaching them skills that we learned as Boy Scouts, you know? And, they had already been through all that, so boot camp was easy, man.
It also taught you how to take care of the other guys, you know,
Sure.
the ones that they couldn't do things.
Right.
You would automatically be a helpful hand to somebody
Sure,
else.
sure.
But I think that was the most important thing. I'm not kidding you. That, like Frank was talking about when he was scoutmaster with his kid. But I think that with us, because we always lived in the same barrio and the same part of Colton, that we were more like together, all of us, because we knew each other and we knew the parents and we knew the mothers and fathers of everybody, and there was a connection that, you know, a lot of time, sure, the guys would fight with each other and all that, but at the end of the fight, handshakes and no mas, you know? And I think we had that bond between us that in that time, like you said, I think we were different than what the kids are today, you know? Because back then, we would always watch each other's back. We were always trying to help somebody. And, you know, and a lot of times, you know, we couldn't, but half of the time, you know, we were there, you know? And when we went to the scout meetings, we were all together again. And then when we all went our separate ways, and we started growing up, but we still said, hey, Joe over there, or Bill over there, you know, he's having troubles or something like that, and you know, a lot of times, some guys would say, you know what, let's go see what's wrong with it, you know? But I think that was the most important thing of all, that we always took care of each other.
The personal connection.
Yeah, and I personally think, like right now in Colton, I really don't know anybody in Colton no more. I really don't. I mean, I really don't know who lives in South Colton. From us, like our generation. Our generation went, and like I thought it was Tony D'Arcy one time at Tommy's house, and he said, you know what, Rudy? There'll never be another one. There'll never be another generation like us.
No.
We had something, and I think we did have something, you know? And for the young people like Frankie, when he was talking about the Colton guys, you know, we all owed to one person, and that was Ray Abreu, because he was always there. He was never, you know, he never said no. He always said, okay, oh, I'll see you guys. Oh, I'll meet you over there. I'll get you what you need, you know? A lot of time we were playing baseball with only one ball. And some of the guys would hit over the fence or over the park, and the guy would take off with it, you know? So, you know, he would always get us balls and bats, you know? I don't know where he got them. We never asked, you know? But I know he probably, like you said, people, a lot of times, even people in merchandise, never said no to him. I think
No.
the school district supplied some of the stuff.
And
you
that's
know?
another thing, when we were playing ball, you know who supplied everything? Ray Abreu. Ray Abreu had bats, the bag for the bats, catcher's mitt, catcher's mask. Ray Abreu provided, not only for the Boy Scouts, but for all the teams in South Colton. If you needed a couple of softballs, go see Ray Abreu. Okay, yeah, here. Just be sure to bring it back.
I remember one time we went to play basketball at Casablanca. And we got there, we were warming up, and the guys were over there on one side, the guys from Casablanca, and we were over here warming up and shooting the baskets and all that. And Ray went and talked to the manager of the other team, and he came over and said, okay, you and you, who are you gonna start, you and you, and all. Okay. So we beat the guys. We beat them. But then when we were getting when we were gonna get on the truck, he always had a canvas. If you ever remember, he always had a canvas. He said, you guys, as soon as you get in the truck, get that canvas out. He said, because these guys are born losers and they don't like you because you beat them. He said, as soon as I start the truck, you cover yourself because you're gonna feel a lot of stuff hitting you. And you know what? It came to pass, they did. I mean, they chased us out of Casablanca, those guys, you know? But when they came over here to Colton, they didn't want to come. They thought maybe we were gonna do the same thing to them, you know?
Well, you know, it seems that all of us were impacted in a positive sense with with our experience in Boy Scout. There was, you know, there were not only some of the activities that we participated, such as the overnight hikes, the instructional programs that we had, the volunteer things that we needed to do in the community. So it seems that all of us, in one way or another, were